I've done it. My friends have too. You open your phone for a quick break, and suddenly it's been, 50 minutes? You're probably watching this right now instead of doing something else. Most people end up here the same way. Funny thing is, research shows we spend over 2 hours a day lost in doom scrolling. That's more time than most people spend eating, or even talking to loved ones. And while it's easy to blame bad habits, your brain actually thinks it's helping. Whether you're lost in reels or watching just one more video before getting back to work, you're not lazy, you're human. This is the cycle of procrastination. And trust me, we've all been there. So before you judge yourself, maybe it's time to understand what's really happening beneath that pattern. The hidden cycle. It usually starts small. I'll do it later. You push the task off just for a bit. Then the guilt creeps in, and with it, the anxiety. To escape that feeling, you distract yourself again. It's a loop of relief and regret, one that feels impossible to break. Picture this. The day's almost over, your screen's full of half-finished tabs, and that one task you meant to start this morning is still waiting. You're tired, your mind's foggy, and you tell yourself, I'll get to it tomorrow. Except tomorrow comes, and the pattern repeats. Psychologists call this the procrastination anxiety loop, a self-reinforcing cycle. The short-term relief of avoiding a task acts like a reward in your brain, according to research from the University of Sheffield. Each time you delay, your brain learns that avoidance feels good, even if it hurts later. Sometimes the delay doesn't even begin with a conscious choice. It starts with a whisper of fatigue, a slight emotional resistance. Your brain preloads the excuse so you don't have to feel the discomfort. That's why waiting until you feel ready rarely works. We tend to romanticize productivity and energy, as though high output is the default state of human beings. We've built a culture that worships the grind somewhere along the way. Rest became guilt-inducing, and being busy turned into a badge of worth. But our brains were never designed for constant output, and in reality, energy fluctuates. This, the effort recovery model, it says humans need real downtime to restore mental resources. When we skip that recovery, our focus and motivation decline, even if we keep working. What's subtle is how this cycle rewires your internal expectations. Over time, your mind begins to expect delay. It becomes the default habit. So the real work is to slowly reestablish start as the new default, not through force, but through repetition in small doses. To really understand it, we need to look at what procrastination actually is. What is procrastination? What is procrastination exactly? Etymologically, the word comes from the Latin procrastinus, pro, meaning forward, and crastinus, meaning of tomorrow, meaning to put off until tomorrow. But what we often call laziness is actually something far more complex. According to Dr. Piers Steel, a leading researcher and author of the procrastination equation, procrastination is a self-defeating behavior pattern marked by short-term benefits and long-term costs. In other words, your brain is prioritizing feeling better now over doing better later. There's a difference between active delay, when you plan strategically to postpone, and psychological procrastination, when you delay even when you want to act. Many mistake the first for the second, and self-blame creeps in when it's really a matter of internal conflict. Procrastination often masquerades as planning. You imagine organizing your notes or researching just a bit more. Recognizing that trick gives you back some control. In a way, procrastination is technically a stress relief mechanism. When you feel anxious, overwhelmed, or uncertain about a task, your brain seeks an escape, something that feels safe or rewarding, like checking messages, reorganizing your desk, or, yes, watching cat videos. These cute little creatures have gathered billions of views online, and a study in computers and human behavior found that watching them makes people feel lighter and more positive. A small sign that even our procrastination is rooted in comfort. And if it's not laziness, then why do we keep doing it? The reason. So, why do we keep doing it even when we know it's bad for us? Experts have found that procrastination is not a time management issue, it's an emotion management issue. Dr. Tim Feichel from Carleton University explains that procrastination isn't about being lazy, but about struggling to regulate your emotions. You might procrastinate because you're bored, or because you believe you're incapable of doing the task well. Sometimes it's fear of failure, or even fear of success. Other times, it's perfectionism that paralyzes you before you can begin, and for some, it runs even deeper. People who've experienced chronic stress or trauma often develop avoidance as a coping mechanism. When certain situations trigger old feelings of helplessness or pressure, the brain does what it's learned to do: protect you by pulling away. What looks like procrastination is sometimes a form of emotional self-defense. Another reason we procrastinate is identity threat. When a task challenges how we see ourselves, our ego puts up resistance. Starting might risk exposure of perceived flaws, so avoidance becomes the safer path. There's also a social layer. When you know others are watching, or you anticipate judgment, procrastination can act as a shield. Better to delay than to fail publicly. That's why some tasks with high visibility feel heavier than others. The emotional stakes are higher. And for many, procrastination is a side effect of overstimulation. With so much noise, notifications, expectations, constant input, our brains look for an easy out. However, the answer lies deeper, inside how our brain handles discomfort. The science of avoidance. Your brain isn't working against you, it's actually protecting you. When faced with an uncomfortable task, the amygdala, the brain's emotional alarm system, lights up like you're facing a threat. At the same time, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning and decision-making, goes quiet. This imbalance triggers the urge to escape. According to researchers at McLean Hospital, procrastination often happens when emotional stress overrides cognitive control. Your brain chooses short-term comfort over long-term goals because it feels safer. There's evidence that acute stress can actually reduce working memory and impair decision-making, making it harder to start. In other words, the very stress you're trying to escape via procrastination increases the difficulty of task initiation. That's why people with ADHD or heightened emotional sensitivity often struggle more. Their reward systems and threat responses are wired differently. Procrastination, for them, isn't carelessness. It's a neurological tug-of-war. Our neural pathways, the literal wiring that carries our thoughts and habits, reinforce this pattern. Each time you give in to avoidance, that pathway strengthens. But here's the hopeful part. Habits are rewritable. Neural plasticity means that with awareness and repetition you can form new ones. And that brings us to something many of us forget: emotion and self-belief. The role of self-efficacy and emotion. It's easy to assume procrastination means a lack of discipline, but more often, it's a lack of self-compassion. Research from the University of Sheffield found that students who forgave themselves for previous procrastination were less likely to do it again. Blame fuels the cycle. Kindness breaks it. Another key factor is self-efficacy, the belief that you're capable of influencing outcomes. Psychologist Albert Bandura showed that people with higher self-efficacy approach challenges with curiosity, not dread. They start tasks sooner, persist longer, and recover faster from setbacks. Self-efficacy doesn't just affect whether you start, it affects how long you persist when you face difficulty. People who believe in their capacity bounce back faster from distractions or mistakes. That's why rebuilding belief is as important as building willpower. Another layer is emotional memory. Past experiences of failure or criticism get stored in your emotional self. When a new task echoes those old wounds, "I failed before, so I'll fail again," that emotional memory triggers resistance. Healing those threads can loosen the grip of procrastination. So, if you often procrastinate, it might not be because you don't care, but because you've learned to doubt yourself. Every unfinished task feels like proof that you can't follow through. But the truth is, every time you try again, you're already rebuilding that trust. Hey, still with me? Remember to hydrate yourself. Seriously, drink water so you don't procrastinate taking care of your body while you're busy procrastinating everything else. So how do we begin changing a pattern that feels built into us? Rewiring the habit. Here's where we start to shift from blame to awareness. Since procrastination is a habit, that means it's something you can unlearn. But it doesn't happen through willpower alone. It happens through curiosity and consistency. When you notice yourself avoiding a task, pause and ask, "What am I trying to escape right now?" Is it boredom, fear of doing it wrong, a need for rest? This moment of awareness interrupts the automatic cycle. Then, make the task smaller, ridiculously smaller. As Dr. Heikel says, once you start, it's a lot easier to keep going. The hardest part is simply beginning. One trick: link the discouraged task to a tiny pleasurable ritual. For example, before starting, brew a cup of tea or light a candle. That small positive cue can shift your brain's anticipation from threat to comfort. Use visual micro-commitments. Draw a tiny checkbox in your notebook or on your screen labeled "just 1 minute." Opening the box is psychologically reinforcing. Over time, multiple tiny starts build up momentum without demanding heroic effort. Practicing delayed gratification can also help rewire procrastination habits. Instead of chasing immediate comfort, you train your brain to wait for a more meaningful reward after completing a task. Even tiny wins celebrate any forward movement, no matter how small. Crossing off even the tiniest step sends a signal to your brain that progress is possible, reinforcing confidence and reducing the power of avoidance. Over time, these small victories accumulate, turning what once felt impossible into a series of manageable, achievable actions. And if you can't begin yet, rest, not the scroll until 2 a.m. kind of rest, but the kind where you actually let your body and mind reset. Remember, avoidance is a message. Sometimes it's telling you, "I'm overwhelmed, please slow down." And once you start seeing it differently, something beautiful begins to shift. A kinder way forward. Procrastination isn't a flaw in your character. It's a signal, a quiet nudge from your mind that something inside needs care. Maybe the task feels too big. Maybe you're afraid of what happens if you actually finish. Or maybe you're just tired of being tired. Whatever it is, the answer isn't in pushing harder. It's in listening closer. Practice self-compassion. Be patient with the pace you're in. Pay attention gently to what your mind is avoiding, not to judge it, but to understand it. You're not broken, you're adapting. And like any habit that once protected you, this one can change too. As you move forward, practice retrospective curiosity. When you procrastinate, look back afterward with non-judgmental curiosity. What was happening emotionally? What did your nervous system feel? Over time, those reflections become data, not shame. Remember this: change isn't linear, and small regressions don't mean failure. A slip doesn't erase progress. Sometimes the mind tests new patterns. If you pause, reorient, and try again, you're not failing. you're recalibrating toward a healthier relationship with action. So, next time you catch yourself drifting into just one more video, take a breath. Notice the urge, smile at it, and remember, even awareness counts as progress. Because procrastination isn't your fault, but healing the reason behind it, that's your power. Let yourself be human, patient, imperfect, and still deserving of kindness. This is work you once cared about. Give yourself the space and energy to return to it gently, and give yourself the energy to approach it without pressure. Procrastination isn't proof you're broken. Maybe it's your mind's way of asking for gentler conditions to grow. If you want to keep learning on how to decode what your brain's really asking for, this next video will help you start.